Hello, my name is Josh Blansky. I am a teacher at Crete Mooney High School. I teach math, and this is my proposed action plan for our department next year. Okay, so to start off, here's what the action plan actually is. Okay, so our learner-centered problem is students are having difficulty seeing connections between the math courses. So um, geometry, algebra 1, algebra 2 right now, the students are not having a clear connection between the courses, despite the teachers trying to show them the connections. There's not really a natural flow to the courses at this point. So our problem in practice is, as teachers, we do not provide enough opportunities for students to clearly see the relationships in the mathematics courses. And in order to address this, what we're going to do is we are going to adopt a curriculum described by the ISBE, known as the Model Mathematics Curriculum or the Integrated Mathematics Curriculum. This will allow teachers to integrate algebra and geo concepts or geometry concepts each year for students and giving them a better explanation on how they are clearly related to each other. So by adopting this new curriculum, we will see a much better connections between each level of mathematics, and it creates a more natural flow and gives, like I said, the teachers a much better way of providing the connections between each math year. Okay. So here's a little timeline of what we're going on here. So task, your first task here would be to adopt the curriculum, and this would be done in the first week of June. And then what we would have to do is create teams for each course. So Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. And this would be done by the end of week 2. So you kind of have these teams ready to go. Now, realistically, when we're doing this, this would be a kind of pick a leader for each team and bring those people in with some supporters as well as the administration. So everybody's kind of working together here. So what then these teams would do is they would begin to look at the new curriculum using backward design. Teachers will begin to write the lessons using the curriculum outline. Okay, so the curriculum outline is actually on the ISBE website, so that will be a huge help to the teachers, showing them exactly how many units there are, the standards that go with the units, and anything else that they may need resource-wise can be found there. I have a link to it later on in the slideshow. Okay, this needs to be done by the second week of July. The reason being is we want to be able to revise this and review this as a whole team before we release it into the school year. Okay, so the next step would be administrators and the teams revise the lessons together, review it, and try to prepare to release this to the rest of the staff. So the goal would be to release the curriculum to the staff before the next school year starts, so that way the staff can kind of get an idea of what the expectation is going to be moving forward. The next piece would be to have the curriculum and example lessons created by the teacher groups and be sent to all the staff, and that would be the first week of August. So again, school starts roughly week 3 of August. Some it's week 4, or depending on where you go, it could be later on. For us at Crete Mooney, it's usually in the middle of week 3. Sometime, and realistically, we start the curriculum on the week 4 of August. Okay, so during the first week of school, the first 2 days are always institute days for us, so we will be using those 2 days for meetings, and those meetings will discuss this new curriculum and the expectations that we have moving forward. The important thing with this new curriculum is that how we introduce it, although we are getting the teams together early, the ideal way to release this curriculum instead of all at the same time would be start with the freshman class on Math 1, and as they progress forward, it would be, then we would say Math 2 is coming in, then Math 3 is coming in. The reason we would do it this way is that it provides a natural flow for that course team and for the students themselves. by throwing it all in at once, you may be confusing the students that have already done the old curriculum or the traditional curriculum, if you will, and not giving them really a fair chance to experience this new curriculum as a whole, and it may leave pieces and cause some confusion to those students. Okay, so here I have one of my graphs that I used to kind of show two schools here. So my school, Crete-Monee and Lockport. The reason picking Lockport is that Lockport uses the integrated curriculum. They also spend roughly the same amount of money per student that we do at Crete-Monee. So it's a nice comparison here. As you can see from this chart, based on what you see the performance wise, yes, approaching, they're kind of the same, and each thing approaching means that there's some deficit, but not too much. Partially meets is there's a lot of problems. Meets is you're good. Exceeds means obviously you are exceeding the expectation of just the standards. Okay, so as we can see, the danger zone is the partially meets. Crete is very high in that, where Lockport is low. Even though our approaching is the same, if you go to the other side, their meets is, a full 18% higher, and their exceeds is a 9% higher. So again, you can see that here, based on curriculum, there is a clear increase in Lockport versus Crete here. Okay, so I did go on the ISB website here, and I pulled some of the pathways. There are obviously all, you can see side by side here what the traditional pathway of Algebra 1 looks like versus integrated pathway, which would be the Math 1, Math 2, Math 3. And there's ones for each of these. So again, I'm just focusing on Algebra 1 here, or freshman year of high school. So you can see all the standards, and they go side by side here. So you can easily have teachers make comparisons between each standard when they're actually going to do the comparison later and actually grade the effectiveness of this. You can see also that in the traditional pathway, there's a lot kind of crammed together, whereas in the integrated, it's more spread out. It's more it's more functional and not overloading the students too much. And then as you see the other pathways moving forward, for example, traditional pathway, the next thing would be Geo. Well, Geo's does not have a lot of standards that they cover, but if you look at integrated math pathway number 2, there's a lot more standards that the students get to cover. So it's much more manageable for the students as well as the teachers, and gives the teachers more time to express what they need to express on each topic. Okay, the biggest teaching strategy that we would use during this time is teaching to a big idea. So according to David Weiss, you can see there, a big idea takes more than a day to teach, and is a deliberate collection of smaller ideas that fit within a lesson. This allows students to have more interconnected schema and requires students to retrieve information from earlier in the year while making connections between topics. So this is a natural thing for us to use, a natural strategy for us to use here. By taking the big idea that the Common Core gives us, that standard, we can break it down in our lessons and give each piece to try to get it to that Common Core standard. And it gives us the opportunity to go ahead and have the students kind of define what is the big idea, what is our purpose here. And as we continue to move forward in the year, you can challenge the students to go ahead and actually reform their ideas about your main topics, which is kind of cool. All right, so measuring effectiveness. So the first thing that we're going to look at is assessment data. So all of our assessment data is found on Partners, which is a great resource. But we also, in these assessments, put the standards that we are covering during these assessments. So what we can do is we can take the assessments that cover the same standards and compare them to each other. Okay, what we should see is actually an increase in score at first. And at first, again, I do not think that setting a certain percentage at the beginning is a good idea. I think we're just looking for any sort of improvement. It may be minor, maybe major. Okay, as the year goes on, we should be seeing an increased level of performance. Ideally, by the end of the first year, just on our individual assessment data, we should be seeing about a 10% increase, hopefully. Again, it may fall short of that. That would be ideal. I would like to realistically see between a 5 and 10% increase to say that it is effective. But of course, really the main goal here is the SAT and the PSAT, which we all have access to. And we want to see an increase in that as well. Or, in other words, we want to see a decrease in that not meeting, okay? And we want to see an increase in the meeting area of the SAT scores. Okay, so we will do this by comparing previous years with the previous year's curriculum to the new curriculum and see how that works out. Okay, so again, I'm not expecting a huge jump right away. I think that, again, realistically looking at a 5 to 10% decrease in partially meet standards and an increase of about, again, I'm gonna say a little bit smaller here, is 3 to 5%, and meeting expectation is showing that there is a little bit of growth in that original PSAT, and then as they move forward, again, we are looking each year to hopefully have that increase be larger as we teachers get more effective with the new curriculum. Okay, so some resources for the teachers themselves. They will be able to go to the ISB website. I included the link right there. So what's nice is you find a bunch of video presentations, documents, a virtual binder. I mean, it organizes everything that a team would need to get started with a new curriculum, and it is very, very helpful, very clearly laid out, and gives you a variety of resources to look at.